use this. We just got started. You came in the nick of time. So this is where we stopped last day, yesterday. A process flow of what happens typically in an e-commerce transaction. E-commerce versus e-business. E-business literally can mean any business communication over the web. So that's a broad category. Hard to have a typical use case. Let me now go all the way to the end and give you an example. It'll take 4 minutes. It's worth watching. Another inspirational video. This is the type of pure play e-commerce I'm talking about. A book that is created digitally, marketed digitally, distributed, you pay for it. Business model is that it comes bundled with hardware, internet-enabled hardware, and it just so happens that it had to do with Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. I hope it works. I'm told after 5, the traffic would be very good, okay? A next generation digital books. You have had PDFs, yeah? How about a walking, talking book? Not quite. Can you hear? Good enough, eh?
For the past year and a half, my team at Push Pop Press and Charlie Melchers of Melcher Media have been working on creating the first feature-length interactive book. It's called Our Choice, and the author is Al Gore. It's the sequel to An Inconvenient Truth, and it explores all the solutions that will solve the climate crisis. The book starts like this. This is the cover. As the globe spins, we can see our location, and we can open the book and swipe through the chapters to browse the book. Or we can scroll through the pages at the bottom. And if we want to zoom into a page, you can just open it up. And anything you see in the book, you can pick up with 2 fingers and lift off the page and open up. And if you want to go back and read the book again, you just fold it back up and put it back on the page. And so this works the same way. You pick it up, you pop it open.
I consider myself among the majority who look at windmills and feel they're beautiful.
Could be New Zealand.
And so throughout the whole book, Al Gore will walk you through and explain the photos. This photo you can even see on an interactive map. Zoom into it and see where it was taken.
Oh.
And throughout the book, there's over an hour of documentary footage and interactive animations. So you can open this one.
Most modern wind turbines consist of a large...
It starts playing immediately. And while it's playing, we can pinch and peek back at the page, and the movie keeps playing. Or we can zoom out to the table of contents, and the video keeps playing. But one of the coolest things in this book are the interactive infographics. This one shows the wind potential all around the United States. But instead of just showing us the information, we can take our finger and explore and see state by state exactly how much wind potential there is. We can do the same for geothermal energy and solar power. This is one of my favorites. So this shows
Talk about interaction. Yeah?
when the wind is blowing, any excess energy coming from the windmill is diverted into the battery. And as the wind starts dying down, any excess energy will be diverted back into the house. The lights never go out. And this whole book, it doesn't just run on the iPad. It also runs on the iPhone. And so you can start reading on your iPad in your living room and then pick up where you left off on the iPhone. It works the exact same way. You can pinch into any page, open it up. So that's Pushpop Press's first title, Al Gore's Our Choice. Thank you.
Okay? And there's a guy who asks him a question. Remember the name, Chris Anderson. It's an important name.
That's spectacular. Do you want to be a publisher, a technology licensor? What is the business here? Is this something that other people can do?
Yeah, we're building a tool that makes it really easy for publishers right now to build this content. So Melcher Media's team, who's on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast building software, takes our tool and every day drags in images and text. And,
so you want to license the software to publishers to make books as beautiful as that?
Yes.
Right. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
See, this was a prototype, if you want, a proof of concept. And the concept worked. And it worked for the reasons we have discussed: the disruptive ability of digital goods. Not only that, the business justification. It costs less to produce. It costs less to carry. It costs less to distribute. You see, you never have to deal with excess inventory or no inventory. How many times might you have been disappointed when you went to your favorite bookstore, maybe Harry Potter series, it was sold out? With digital goods, you never have to be sold out. I just want you to remember the name Chris Anderson. He was, still is maybe, yeah, the editor of Wired magazine. Wired magazine is a trade publication focused on the digital world, digital lifestyle, and we'll come to that in a bit. Let me do this. A brief history of electronic commerce. It's interdisciplinary. You have the cloud already. We have taken hardware, software, mobile technology, the cloud, the glue that brings everything together, internet protocols, standards. You've got all that. And that was interdisciplinary. Google took it and ran. Search engines were the first tools that allowed, on the one hand, digital content to be stored in a format. They were not the originators of HTML, but they used it. Browsers, on the other hand, they were, again, not the first. You know, way before Google, you had Netscape. Today, you don't even know of them. But you had Apple Safari, way before Chrome. But Google was the first to come up with an optimization algorithm that could connect information requirements with the sort of web content that was out there. And that was, I suppose, in a way, taking wind to a windmill. Without either, the other is worthless. What's the good of wind? It's a nuisance without a windmill. And what's the good of windmills if there wasn't any wind? Today we talk about F-commerce because Facebook, having entered the fray sometimes in 2006, decided we want to be more than just a happy, let's all be friends type of site. We'd like to get into this e-commerce game too. And we call them F-commerce. I'm going to postpone discussion on social media and its role in digital business, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about next week, right? Is electronic commerce always a success? Is it such a no-brainer? In the first generation, and even now, there are umpteen instances of e-commerce gone wrong. It's just like any business. 100 ideas, maybe 10 reach the stage where they get more than seed funding, first round, second round, maybe they even get listed, and we know what the average is of the 10 companies which get listed. Maybe 6 fail within their first 3 to 5 years. Startups fail not because they were a bad business idea or that they didn't have their financials done right. Startups fail because they didn't get their operations right. And sometimes it's not just startups. Great companies like Kodak, Toys R Us fail because they have not adapted to change. Wasn't it Charles Darwin who said in The Origin of Species, it's not the biggest, fastest, or cleverest of species which survive. It is those that can adapt most to change. And the humble cockroach has been there for a long time, precisely because it's so adaptable. There are activities and there are mechanisms, right? And the book I referred to at the end gives you a blow-by-blow account. How you reach markets, how you sort out the storefront, how you do the catalogs, search engines. Yeah, you need a search engine, or else you don't get the right products to the right people looking for them. Whether you want the highest bid auction, auctions can be economically proved as the most efficient way of allocating resources. Are they fair? And with digital goods, it's meaningless to auction it to the highest bidder because you can replicate these goods. The more the merrier, right? We'll talk about that a bit. Social commerce, virtual worlds. I don't know whether any of you have experience with Second Life. That was a virtual world, Second Life. And at one time, it was in a very derisory state. The common comment was, Second Life was for those without a first life. You know, you have nothing to do on a Friday night, you go online, you hang out with groups of virtual people, some avatars who are not what they are. So that didn't work very well. Today, you've got virtual worlds in the form of massively multiplayer online role-playing games. Games such as the Game of Thrones. You have movie franchises that introduce strategy into games and make it a learning experience. Just like you'd have toys that come out of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Kung Fu Panda has spawned off some role-playing games, online role-playing games. So these are also virtual worlds. And not next week, next week, I'll refer you to another inspirational TED Talk where Jane McGonigal, formerly from Berkeley, but she talked about how games can make a better world. And you look at that and comment on it. And finally, but not least important, if you don't have a way of collecting payment, then forget it. What are you in business for, right? So even the government knows you can have all these mechanisms, but you must collect your taxes. You must collect your dues. You must collect your fees. The university knows that. Very quickly, basic functions of an e-commerce solution. Catalog. Shopping carts. A shopping cart. The metaphor comes from the actual physical shopping cart that you would use when you browse any store. Goods you're interested in go into the shopping cart, but you're not obliged to buy it nor pay for it until you see all the terms and conditions, including the final price. Transactions processing, including payment processing. Search engines. Now, search engines don't just help you locate products of interest. Search engines should also help you locate who else bought this product and what are they saying about it. Reviews, suggestions, recommendations, etc. And larger sites may also include something that we know as web analytics. Who's been here? What have they shopped for? What was their purchasing decision? And you know, this is exactly the kind of market research that many retail outlets do. They call it a market basket analysis. This is rather dated. There are products in a grocery store that are often bought together, and some are really strange. It's not like toothpaste and toothbrush. You can understand that. Or a shaver and shaving gel. You can understand that. Yeah, you can understand that. But how about if I told you diapers and beer? What's the connection? Quite. You see, this is the theory. And it's not my theory, all right? So it's not like I have a gender bias. The theory is that young fathers don't get to go to the pub as much as they would like. So when they go and pick up diapers for their young children, they need access to what they used to have, right? And therefore, they need to be kept together. This is a market basket analysis that is kind of dated. Today, of course, with e-commerce, you can order them separately from separate sources. You don't have to go to a convenience store. This is some observation at a convenience store, not necessarily a grocery store. Grocery stores are open till midnight, even right here in New Zealand. Yeah? And so it would be dated. Wouldn't it be nice on a web store to be able to do this kind of analytics continuously? So you can account for the seasonal effect. How's it different in summer versus winter? How's it different around Christmas time versus Halloween? I don't know. You can do that. So take a look at it. Catalog display. What this means is the equivalent of a product brochure. And there are a whole bunch of tools that allow you to display your products, categorize them, and maybe have some search keywords so they appear whenever there is an interest in a product like that. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Just look at digital cameras, DSLR. Look at all the attributes that a digital camera, autofocus, DSLR, interchangeable lens. There are so many. How can you capture this in a matter of 5 to 10 search keywords? That's a skill. So it's not a technical problem. It is a marketing challenge, right? That this be done correctly. And obviously, Toys R Us didn't do that very well. How they could sell toys in a toy store didn't leave them with sufficient experiences on how they could do that online. Whereas, I don't know whether you're familiar with this UK chain, Tesco. Tesco would be the equivalent of Countdown, maybe? Yeah? They're more than a grocery store, right? They are increasingly expanding their range of products and services to compete with Amazon, and they've become as big as Walmart, the UK. Tesco, in the UK, never lost any ground to Amazon UK because somehow, early in the game, they floated Tesco.com and it supplemented what they already were doing well in, physical grocers. Now, we can go into a detailed discussion about produce, being sold fresh, in-store. Online are the heavy, repeated goods, you name it, and that will be delivered to you. There are collection centers that allowed you to order online and pick up physically. They had a whole bunch of tactics that kept them profitable. Tesco.com. So they are examples of bricks and clicks stores that have done very well. They don't lose ground to pure play e-tailers, nor bricks and mortar like they used to be. A shopping cart, you know the symbol, and the purpose of a shopping cart is for you to have a reminder of what you browsed and were interested in. And the beauty of a shopping cart is that you can have a shopping list, and as soon as you put it into the shopping cart, because of your history with this web store, it all appears. Is this what you are looking for? Because this is what you bought in the past. Any one of you with experience shopping online would know how easy this is. These are just examples of state-of-the-art shopping cart software. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you know what it is. Transactions processing. Sometimes, and this is what led Tesco to greater success. Look, you don't even have to put a credit card number there. Just carry a Tesco card. And every time you purchase, we will keep tabs of it and we'll bill you once a month. It's like almost a utility, right? But you process the transaction so that you can collect payment in a really secure way. Yeah, so this is no longer HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, but a secure version of it, HTTPS. Yeah, so it is no longer HTTP. When it comes to payment, there is a secure version of it. Right? Transaction processing. And it'll be so nice if you had bundled your services like Amazon does. Would you like New Zealand Post delivery, or would you like courier, or would you like to come and pick it up yourself? And most e-commerce merchants should offer the flexibility. Some things are urgent, some things are important, you want to pick it up yourself, and some things can wait. Yeah? It allows you that. You know all about coupons. That's the equivalent of a loyalty program that makes you keep coming back. Long story short, it says it's complex. Yeah, integrating all these would be complex. Just think about it. You go on to hotels.com to book a room for a little holiday. Let's say you're going to Queenstown. You're going to Queenstown for a holiday. You go to hotels.com and book a room. You are a loyal customer of Hotels.com, and so you have collected points, and guess what? To encourage you to spend and come back to them, they give you a coupon. Now, Hotels.com has an agreement with this hotel in Queenstown that their room rates would be sold for so much. But they're giving you a $20, let's say, coupon because you are important to them. This is the complexity. It is not rocket science. The complexity involves collecting money from you and maybe topping it up because you're such an important customer, topping it up when they pay the merchant. And handling refunds. Yeah, most of these portals will only release payment to the merchant after a product or service, a product has been delivered, a service has been consumed, just in case there's a complaint, right? That's the protocol anyways. In the case of retail, you know what the business model is, eh? So you've got Countdown selling a whole bunch of products and services. Could be dairy products, it could be produce, it could be packaged processed goods. The wholesale distributors don't get paid for it until you purchase. You go to Countdown, you purchase a product, it's run through, and 30 days later, that payment backwards is cleared. Now, why does this happen this way? That's the supply chain arrangement that's negotiated. It has nothing to do with technology. But technology helps make it open and transparent, you see, because when you ring it off, the POS, the point of sale terminal, everybody can see it. So I'm the distributor, I see that one of my products has been sold, and if I see that 100 of my products have been sold, it's time to top it up in that store. I know that too. So uniformly, it's very efficient. What's next? That was the simple thing. What's next will come next week, and I'm quite sure you can wait till next week. Social computing, social networking, right? Have a look at this. And when enterprises jump on, in the early cases, many enterprises thought they were just aberrations, you know? Regular consumers blogging about good experiences, bad experiences, and most brands thought they could get away with it. Many, many examples of this. The one I'm familiar with has to do with printing. I won't mention a name. A well-known printing brand, yeah, computer printing, yeah, thought they could get away with low-grade refills for their printer cartridges. It was a matter of just getting it from a low-grade supplier and branding it as though it was their own. Whereas the competition had moved on to sustainable ways of having printer cartridges changed. How was this? You didn't have to change the whole cartridge. You could take it back to them and they will inject fluids or powder into your existing cartridge. And as long as it was working mechanically and electromechanically, it was okay, right? That was sustainable. You didn't want to have this whole contraption, yeah, exhausted after 3 months and you had to get another one. So the competition was doing that. And this famous, once proud printing company just did not see that. The blogs were just criticizing them, attacking them. They did not see that. They did not see that, and they went out of business just because of the model of replacing cartridges. It had nothing to do with the quality of the printers. It had nothing to do with even their price competitiveness, but it was seen to be creaming the market. You've got us because we bought your printer. We have no choice but to buy the cartridges from you. You're not giving us the option, like your competitors are, of injecting fluid into this cartridge. So that was the beginning of the end for them. And not just ever since then, but enterprises now take social media and social networks very seriously, because it can really damage your reputation, and there's something called electronic word of mouth. See, if, I don't know, a famous sports or cultural personality said, hey, look, I drink Meadow Fresh milk, and look how good I look. It may be plausible. You know? Some of us would say, I'd like to look like that too. But if someone you knew well shared with you that, hey, don't go near this product. It really sucks. It's really bad. And I feel ripped off. You'd really take notice. This would also be true for a positive recommendation. You know, I like this restaurant. I enjoyed this movie. I recommend you read this book. You would do it. That's called electronic word of mouth, because when someone you know and trust recommends something to you, it becomes a more potent marketing message than watching it on TV as a paid commercial. That's the point here. So we'll talk a bit more. I talked about Second Life already. Don't even worry about it. I did something with a former student on, and this is more than 10 years ago, how Second Life and virtual worlds can be a platform for part-time jobs. I mean, some even do that job while attending classes. Yeah, you just got a screen and you attend to it. You can have a Facebook store open 24/7, and it needs a little bit of your attention once in a while. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, right? But if the idea that you need to spend dedicated amounts of time to manage a simple web store can be dispelled, then you know what I'm talking about. A web store is always switched on, regardless of time or place. People who are not co-located with you can browse and buy. People who don't, you don't have to have opening hours. They can browse, shop, purchase at their convenience, just as you can fulfill the order at yours. And there are tools that allow this. Wikis, really simple syndication feeds, that's advertising. Wikis, a common platform. A wiki is a common platform where buyers and sellers can come together. And it's a platform that allowed not just TradeMe, but its illustrious American counterpart, eBay, to launch the first of its auctions. Blogs, what's a blog? A microblog, Twitter, yeah? A tweet sometimes says a lot more. Now you've got even Instagram. A picture says a lot more than words. Blogs, a little outdated maybe, but blogs are when specialists, domain experts, write about something with the hope of influencing the market. Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace, Friendster, less common, are social media where anyone has a right to an opinion. And you don't necessarily have a monopoly on who gets to hold the microphone. Anyone can post a message. All of us can share it, make it go viral. You would have heard of Psy's Gangnam Style. Now, that is an example of how social media, in this case YouTube and Facebook, help distribute it with a zero marketing budget. A zero marketing budget. They did not have to market the product. Whereas we know with normal CDs, and we look a little bit later at Spotify, marketing consumes 80% of the total production costs. Of course, licensing and royalties are a different thing. So it's important with business, e-business, to have the model right. What is a business model? A business model is the means with which, the mechanisms with which an e-business concern keeps itself sustainable. And what does sustainable mean? Where your revenues more than cover the costs. It covers costs plus the cost of capital. Or else, why would you even do it? Yeah, you're better off leaving money in the bank. Now, well, there are reasons why you would do it. You're passionate about it. And if you're a big company, you didn't do it, your competitors will. And they will just skim the market away from you. So there are reasons. But let's just say a sustainable business needs to generate revenue, tangible or intangible, to stay in business. Or else even great businesses will fail. Now, this expression is in vogue, digital disruptions. A digital disruption will happen when, thanks or no thanks to the cloud, the internet, hardware, software, mobile technology, software as a service, yeah? Platforms as a service, data as a service, when you've got the cloud of all things, leading to a better way of reaching customers. Faster, cheaper, more direct, more effective. Now, when that happens, The bricks and mortar companies can no longer sustain themselves because it's a race to the bottom in terms of price. I've given you some examples, Kodak, how Encyclopedia Britannica disrupted its own business, cannibalized its own business. Let's think about newspapers. Newspapers. They were supposed to be in trouble. And true enough, in the United States, newspapers were, small-town newspapers particularly, were closing down very alarmingly. So that small voice was lost. But yet some survived. Even right here in New Zealand, the New Zealand Herald is doing well, is it not? And what a business model. You can download an app, the New Zealand Herald app, for free. You get the news that you want. You can customize it. I'm interested in sports. I'm not interested in politics. I'd like to know about the weather. I don't want to know about entertainment. Science and technology I'm interested in. It's not just the New Zealand Herald. You can access Canada's Globe and Mail. You can access the US New York Times. You can access the Daily Mirror, the Daily Telegraph, the Independent. What about the Huffington Post? Huffington Post, you may have heard of it. Huffington Post is all about crowdsourcing. Another business model, but we'll talk about that with social media. Crowdsourcing, because what brings them together is that social connection. So digital disruptions have not just been enabled because of the technology. There are other reasons as well. And the prime reason is that the price was not sustainable to begin with. The price points were not sustainable, and technology allowed the production, distribution, and sale of these products and services, to the extent possible, over the cloud. Digital disruption never took away viable businesses. The Coca-Cola company was never threatened by digital disruption because Coca-Cola, Coke, is one of the most, don't ask me why, I use it as a mouthwash, but Coca-Cola is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Everybody loves it. And you couldn't disrupt something like that. McDonald's was in trouble, but that was not because of digital disruption. McDonald's was in trouble because they did not see the fast food fad as a sunset industry and the health food fad as a growth industry. They didn't see that coming. But they've gotten themselves out, and the fact that they're open 24/7 must say something. There's a demand, right? Spotify. How do you compete with something that's free? What's the business model here? Spotify. Download the app. You get access to music. It may not be top 10, top 100, but it's music I've heard in some of the cafes in Christchurch. How do you even compete with something that's free? Or is it? Is it free? Professor Eduardo Castanova, formerly from Columbia, talks about this, I think, in a very simple to understand manner. It's not free. You don't pay for it with money, but you pay for it with your time. You pay for it with your eyeballs. And what does that mean? Well, if you're a subscriber, or if you are a user of Spotify, they've got you, don't they? And they can push messages like this. There is, looking at your playlist and the kind of music you listen to, these are the concerts coming up. Or, let's try this, and you give us, this is like pilot testing, yeah? Product testing. Now, have you heard of this artist? I haven't, anyway. What do you think? That's pilot testing music. And of course, there's this good old-fashioned advertising. YouTube, if you want, it's freemium. If you wanted a no-ad service, and if you wanted to be able to upload more than 10 minutes of a video clip, you pay for it. So there is a point after which you are paying, not just with time, but real money. So these business models are clever, innovative, but above all, they make business sense because people, users, subscribers are prepared to pay with time up to a certain point. If it becomes an irritant, too many ads, I don't enjoy music. For every minute of music, I have to put up with 2 minutes of ads. Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? Chris Anderson, Chris Anderson talks about one reason for the success of e-tailers and business models like Spotify is that they can support the long tail. The long tail. What's a long tail? Have you heard of the long tail? You haven't, eh? Basically, this is what it means. There are hits, and then there are these niche products. Sometimes you listen to mainstream music, you read mainstream bestsellers, yeah? You watch prime time movies. At other times, there is this alternative pop, underground bands, which would not be able to command economies of scale to produce a product and market it through the normal channels. And that's the long tail. So if you looked at Netflix, this is from Netflix, yeah? If you looked at Netflix, of all their titles, they've got more than 20,000 titles. Some are documentaries, movies, serials, whatever, yeah? Different languages, more than 20,000 titles. Less than 1,500 are what you'd call hits. What's a hit? It's worth playing it in prime time. You can probably screen it at a movie theater and make money from it. Or people would buy the DVD. That's a hit. Yeah? And you know better examples than I do. Books, music, any digital good. Yeah? You could. But then there are a whole bunch. There are a whole bunch of titles that would not sell. You wouldn't keep them in a bookstore if they were books. You would not keep them in a video store if they were DVDs. You would not play them in prime time, either broadcast media or a movie theater. You wouldn't do that because they're just not popular. An example. If someone recorded, maybe 5 years ago, you're very active in the rugby or cricket scene. If someone recorded a high school rugby match, yeah, and uploaded on YouTube, your grandmas or grandpas might watch it, your parents would watch it, your friends and family, those who would. It would make a big emotional connect to you, but not to others. I saw this very graphically when about, I suppose, 5 years ago, we published a research compendium of our results. And the publisher priced it at $88. And I said, at this price, who do you think is going to buy your book? Maybe your mother. I asked my mother, she refused to. I can do a lot more with $88. But there were specialist libraries, there were organizations interested in the research which bought that book. So it sold very little, but then it was never marketed through the university bookstores or other bookstores. It was marketed through, or it was distributed through Amazon and digital fronts. It makes sense because there's no carrying costs. It makes sense because it's a digital book. You can distribute it with a very simple payment. That's the long tail. I hope you understand this, right? That not all of us, not all stores have to play at these hits. There is this, excuse me, there is this long tail that does very nicely because all it takes is for less than 1,000 purchases and you've done nicely. I mean, you can look at the area under the curve, 20,000 different products, sales of 1,000, and let's assume your profit is $2. That's a lot more than 5, 6 products that sell 100,000 and the profits are also $2, right? So rather than numbers, you look at variety. So business models in e-commerce can be described by the way in which they bring revenues, the value proposition they offer, and it must benefit both buyers and sellers. Very interesting observation. In research conducted, even electronically, sophisticated users were prepared to pay a 20% premium because they acknowledge a premium brand. So in other words, they are saying you would pay 20% more to buy something from Countdown because you, or No Liming, because you recognize the brand, you like the brand, it brought you happy memories, than you would with an unknown brand selling the same product. Okay, I'm going to skip this because we talked about it already. Let me try and conclude. Is it sustainable? It better be. It better be, because if it puts downward pressures on costs and it allows you to exploit the long tail, then there is a better revenue model than there would be with traditional bookstores, CD stores, and you can see what's happening to bricks and mortar. Are there limitations? Of course, there are limitations. What's the biggest limitation of electronic commerce? You don't know who to believe. There's so much noise and clatter out there. Yeah, everyone goes through Google to market their products and services. Sometimes you don't know whether it's paid advertisement or a true search on Google. You don't know who you'd listen to. So the ideal business strategy is, if you are a Smith's or a Noel Leeming, to keep working on your, or a Coca-Cola, to keep working on your brand. The brand is not going to go away. And then enter the digital marketplace. Now, what's going to happen to you? You are in a generation that scholars call digital natives. Digital natives. Those of you who are millennials, yeah? Take a look at this at some time. Click it and have a look at it. I could do it. It'll just take a little bit more time. In New Zealand, and this is the thing I have to upload, there is this notion that the country is very digitally inclusive. And I can understand where it comes from, because if you looked at a map, of New Zealand, and you looked at the socioeconomic well-being, and then separately you looked at the digital infrastructure, guess what? Only Mount Cook doesn't seem to be covered. Okay, let's look at this slowly. Social well-being, all right? This is, I wish I could move it out. Okay, social well-being. It's very well. Even Stewart Island was well covered. and then you look at digital inclusion. That means coverage, right? Coverage. And if you took your time and looked through this, there are very few gaps. What does that mean? What this means is the digital economy has already arrived in New Zealand. And the government of New Zealand is doing what is obviously the only thing to do. This is a PDF document if you want to look at it. This is the sort of thing that happens on the cloud. And if that's the sort of thing that happens on the cloud, this is the sort of thing the government of New Zealand wishes to encourage and evolve. The question I put to you is, what will be your role in this? Yeah, what will be your role in this? Take a look at this. It is material that I had just collected. What kind of growth, what kind of contribution to your economy, what kind of ranking you have, yeah? The percentage of businesses that use digital technologies. So I think we can conclude. Either it's electronic business or your firm is out of business. Be very weary and leery of a company which tells you the internet is not for us. We'll just coast along with them. This book is available. That's what this chapter was based on. We looked at that talk. Is there anything that I can add to this tutorial discussion? Please participate. I had another question yesterday. Oh, should I prepare for the final exam by reviewing past papers, or is it something you'll say in class? I said this once, and I'll say it again, yeah? There's going to be no change in how I'm going to pitch it. These are the tutorial discussions that I wish for you to have so that you'd learn something about what this course covers, and you can bet your last dollar. I'm not a betting man. You can bet your last dollar